live edition here on the Rock Pile. I was just talking to Coach DerCola here in the behind the scenes, and I was saying I forgot how to do this thing. I came in tonight. I sat down. I'm like, I'm missing something. Well, I didn't have the mic hooked up. I didn't have the screens hooked up, and we were just saying it's been a while since we've done the college football podcast, which we will be coming back. Getting that thing set up here sometime soon over the next couple of weeks. But I'm excited to talk some RFA football tonight with Coach. The guys are off to they're off to a 5-0 start. They had an exciting game last week, which was a fantastic game. Came right down to the wire, a last-minute touchdown pass by Evan that sealed the game against Auburn. And they'll have a big showdown this week against Whitesboro on Thursday night. So we'll talk to Coach about that and much more. So instead of talking some college football, tonight we're going to talk some high school football with Coach. So let's bring him on screen. What's going on, Coach?
How's it going, Coach?
Well, I got to tell you, I was like all rusty tonight. I sat down. I didn't have the mic hooked up. I didn't have my screen hooked up. I'm like, something's missing. And I'm like, we haven't talked college football in ages.
No, it definitely feels good to get back on the computer and get back to this.
Yeah, so I said we'll have to get that thing going sometime over the next couple of weeks. But it's always good to talk football, regardless if it's high school or college.
Yes, no question about that. Just thinking about football, watching football, best time of the year.
So I got some tough questions for you tonight. I'm not going to go easy on you tonight. You never know what you're going to get from me on here.
That's fine.
Well, let's start first because I don't know if a lot of people that don't know you as well, but you played at a rich tradition high school, Clyde Savannah, and you got some family ties there with your grandfather coach there, your dad coach there. Talk to us a little bit about growing up and coming from a coaching family.
Yeah. First off, I was born down south. I lived down there till basically my 10th grade year. And then my father got a phone call because he was always both my parents have always been teachers and my father's always been a football coach. And down there, he was coaching at one of the bigger high schools down there. I think it was the 7th biggest school in South Carolina. And he got a phone call basically my 9th grade year. And they said, hey, we want you back. Come coach at your old alma mater. My grandfather's name is on that field. And so we packed up the family and came up north. I had to persuade my mom a little bit because she's always a Southern belle. But we came up, so I got the opportunity to play on my grandfather's field, coached by my father, and my grandfather's right there. So we had 3 generations around the field. And actually, my senior year, my brother was my left tackle, so he was protecting my blind side as a 10th grader.
Wow.
We had some great years at Clyde Savannah. We were always a C or D powerhouse. I think we at the time had, when I played there, 15 sectional titles and I think 1 or 2 state titles. So it was definitely the town that shuts down for a Friday night game, and everyone knows your stats and everyone knows, you go in, win, and they always compared me to my father.
Yeah.
He was a legend there in the Hall of Fame. Actually got a D1 scholarship to go to Wyoming to play quarterback out there. And I always got compared to him, so I had to live in his shadow a little bit. And he always had that. I think only lost once in high school, so everyone always held that over me. But I had a successful year. We made it to the sectional finals both the years, but ended up losing both of those games. Then went on to Brockport to play, where I went and came in with another great athlete, quarterback out of Cambridge. We became good friends. He beat me out for the starting job. And by my senior year, he actually tore his ACL. So I got to start the last 6 games of my college career. But, being a part of a football team as a backup quarterback, you always saw stuff. I was always ready to go, but just loved the game. And after that, went on to Utica College as a graduate assistant there for 4 years, did a 1 year as an intern, and then went on to Hamilton College. And then Notre Dame called up the high school that we're looking for an AD and a football coach, and went on to there. Was there for 4 years, won 2 sectional titles, made some great runs. We got bumped up to B as a D-size school. Had a lot of players that went on and played at the next level, which is exciting as always as a coach when they come back and talk to you and being successful. And then moved on to Rome and been there for this is my 6th year, I think, as a football coach. 5 going on my 5th for teaching, 6 for coaching. So I guess you could say football has always been in my blood with my father and grandfather. my father still comes to the game. My grandfather came to a game this year, the Henniker game, and my father still calls me up and gives me advice. He sees stuff on the game, and we talk even during the game. And it's nice to have that, someone who has that much experience. And I think he even looked up. I think we're the only 3-year generation that have won a sectional title in New York State or something like that with my grandfather, him, and myself. So
Yeah,
it's exciting being in a coaching family.
I think that you talk about the coaching family. So I didn't get an opportunity to play for my dad, but I have to hear the old RFA stories where they never lost a game. They had this huge win streak. I could say that when the turf came into RFA from my 9th grade year on, we never lost a home game. My sister never lost on the field. My dad never lost on the field. But I have to go through battles with who was the best RFA team, of all time, because back in the 70s, the 60s, they didn't have this, the state playoffs.
Yep.
So some of those teams that went 8-0 would say, well, back then they didn't have this, the state tournament, or you couldn't play in the regionals. It was, if you won the sectionals, that was good. So there's so many arguments. I always say you can't argue it. There's been so many good teams, throughout the decades, and it's, you can't compare it. But you had the opportunity to play for your father. So how hard was that?
Well, it wasn't hard. It's actually growing up with it. It was just, he was always tough on me. He was up front. He goes, "You're going to be the quarterback of the team. I'm the, especially the offensive coordinator, head coach." It's like, I got to be tough on you because everyone's going to think the position's just been handed to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was always tough on me. Even when you come off the sidelines and it's like, throw a touchdown, hey, great job. But, that pass just a little bit higher, because when we face those better teams, it's going to be a better ball and it won't be as close. Or, I would have a great game and we would just come home, and he wouldn't sit me down to watch film so much, but I was always, Dad, let's watch film. Okay. And he would kind of get into coach mode, and then film goes off, he'd get into dad mode. So we had a good relationship with that. It wasn't, he never brought it home when he was mad at me on the field that he was mad at me at home, or if I was vice versa, I didn't do chores. He didn't hold it to grudge against me on the field. But being the quarterback, he let me know, he goes, I have to ride you hard. Where my brother being the left tackle, he didn't have to do so much.
Yeah, so I mean, I had my dad like in Little League, youth basketball, but I remember as a 9th grader, I was getting set to play JVs, and my dad was the head JV coach at the time here in Rome. And the night before, my dad's going through all the signals, for quarterback and for our plays. And then, come Saturday morning, it was equipment handout. And I think JVs were later in the day. Varsity was early in the morning. And Coach Hoke called the house and told my dad, wake your son up. He needs to come get equipment. And I was like, go get equipment. And he said, yeah, you're coming, you're going to practice. We want you on varsity. And that would have been the only opportunity I would have had to play for my dad, who's, my sister's the winningest one in the family.
Yeah.
My dad just been around, I think my dad was 35 or 40 years, but he was probably easier on me during football, but he was harder on me in basketball and baseball, which was kind of odd, because I would have thought he'd been harder on me in football. But so, Jake, your time at Notre Dame, I mean, I'm going to say 2 of those years you beat the living snot out of me when I was at Sequoia. But you had some really good teams there. You had some really good athletes. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, I think I know what your answer is going to be, is your time at Notre Dame. What's the big difference from Notre Dame to Rome for you?
Well, it's the depth. When you're at Notre Dame, we played in C and got moved up to B my last 2 years there. But we had a D-sized team. So we were traveling to schools with 22, 23. Mm-hmm. And a lot of our players, they played both ways. Like maybe one person came off. And there's even times back before I got there, luckily I didn't have to deal with it. They used to have to dress people with a broken arm just to count them into their count to be able to play. But, I think we could compete with a lot of teams with our first team. Is just, could we be conditioned, where we're going to get beat down or so. And luckily, too, we had a good group of kids that really came through there. They had size, they had knowledge, and they were athletes, not just on the football field, but they were athletes on the basketball court and baseball field. And that was the nice thing about Notre Dame at the time. we had dominant sports. So we got a couple of those small school kids that, wanted to get more of the play in the Tri Valley that get for football and baseball. So that's why they came to Notre Dame.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, you had. I always said when you were there, your skilled kids could have played, at RFA or some of the double
Yep.
A's, but it was the depth. It was up front that was a big difference for you.
Well, the funny story with that one, when my first year at Rome, a couple of those kids transferred to Proctor the following year and ended up, it's like, oh boy, seeing them on the other side, and they fit right in. They started and they beat us that year, and it's like, I wish I had them at RFA at that time.
Mm-hmm. So then, Jake, you get the job, I think, in Rome in 2018, right? I think it was 2018.
Yes. Yep.
I think that year before, I think they were like 1-8 overall, 1-6. So you come into Rome. I mean, obviously, you talk about when you played where you went to high school, the rich tradition, and you knew about the rich tradition here in Rome. Friday night the town shuts down, and I still say to this day, the biggest crowd, and I'm even saying from in college, the biggest crowd I think I ever played in was my junior year against Henniger at Rome. Both sides of the stadium were full. Around the fence, all the way, people were standing on cars.
Wow.
That's how big it was. But on Friday nights, we had people at 4:30, 5 o'clock putting blankets down. I mean, it was crazy. So when you got the job, you knew about all that. Was that motivation for you? Or was there any any extra stress knowing you were coming into a rich football tradition program?
No, growing up in it and seeing it firsthand and living in it. I mean, that's what you kind of always dream of. That's what the true Friday nights is, where as a player that you could walk around town and you had a great game and people know who you were, and that's what's nice about Rome is people know who you are. You have a great game that you can walk into these places and they're going to say great game. They almost live through you on
Mm-hmm.
Friday nights. And that's the type of atmosphere I always love being a part of. When I was at Notre Dame, the hard part is you had so many kids from Sequoia, Little Falls, Herkimer, Rome, like you had kids from all over. So you didn't have that close-knit community that came out and supported you.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you come back winning a sectional title, we didn't have the fire trucks or something like that, where, in Rome, if we had the privilege to get that far and to make it that far and win, I mean, the whole town will be out supporting you, and you would have that awesome parade going around, that sense of community, that pride that you could have, and especially we have it in Rome. So it wasn't so much of a worrying effect. It's just, can I live up to my goal was to try to get to the expectations, to get there, to get Rome back so we can be, looked upon that and have that excitement back in town.
So as you know now, I mean, Romans are tough. Even when you win, it's not enough. When you lose, it's like throw them out, throw this guy out. I mean, it's tough. So being that you weren't a Roman, was that any extra pressure? Because again, I know what it's like to be a Roman living here with all the pressure. I can't imagine not being a Roman. How often have you heard that since you've been here? Wow, he's not a Roman.
I've heard it, and that's one of the big things. Is Rome, you don't know what we have here in this stuff, and it's it's a little disheartening because it's a lot of people don't know your background. It's like, yes, I didn't grow up here, but I know what tradition of football is, being around it. Having that sense of community, having that Hall of Fame, and seeing those ex-players come back and talk, and hey, this player went here to play, this player went here, and hearing the legend stories of everything, and just not people saying, nope, you're not Roman, so you don't count. It's hard. But you see it a lot of places. It's not always, it could be an outside person coming in and it helps get that program back or so. And it's also too, it's for me, it's trying to get there to not so much be accepted, but to just be looked upon like, okay, he's doing a great job. And that's my goal, is always having the players, not just the wins and loss, but having them develop as men, going out into the real world, getting jobs, coming back, being contributors, seeing them get jobs in Rome, being a cop or so, and them coming back and just saying, thanks for everything you taught me, coach. I mean, that's the true of being a coach, seeing that, having that pride. Because when I go back even for Clyde games with my father, and my grandfather, we'll go to a basketball game, and it's one of the best experiences with people coming up to my grandfather just like thanking him.
Hmm.
Thanks, coach. They don't say anything about the wins and losses in the state tournaments. They're just like, thank you for making me who I am today. For me being an excellent father to my family and owning my own business and getting me where I want to be. All because he was just a football coach, someone who's there to care for him and everything. And it's, to me, that's one of the biggest things as a coach.
What was the biggest challenge for you? Because obviously, you came in, you took over for Coach Swavely. I think anytime, whether it's Coach Swavely following Coach Davis and Coach Davis following Coach Hoke and, just what all the names. And I had the opportunity, obviously, to play for Coach Hoke and Coach Mize and Coach Bruce and Bob Ryan. I mean, I was fortunate enough. What was the biggest challenge for you year one coming in?
I think it's just that first year coming in, I didn't get hired till I want to say end of March, actually end of April. So it was late into the process. And the hard part is not being in the school,
Mm-hmm.
where everywhere I've been, I've kind of been in that school. And that was one of the hardest things is getting players, seeing kids walk the hallways and trying to just pull and go, hey, come on, you need to come play football and staying on top of them. So it's just the more of recruiting more players and getting the players to know yourself, where that first year is like, all right, here's your coach. All right, hey, we're having this lifting thing here. Some kids show, some don't. And then it's on to football season. And you're trying to teach something brand new and them trying to learn you and you're trying to learn them. So you're already behind the eight ball on that, where you haven't developed those relationships yet. And it's still kind of hard because I'm thankful that I'm in Rome School District as an elementary teacher, but I would love to be up at the high school to be able to talk to those kids every
Mm-hmm.
single day, to grab a kid that maybe his ninth grade year didn't pan out on JV and just like, hey, keep your head up, or see a kid that's walking the hall that maybe grew 4 inches and got 50 pounds heavier and go, hey, come on, you need to come out and play football, and just keep staying on them. And, when I was at Notre Dame, funny part is the soccer coach always got mad at me because I always kept taking his young athletes. Because I was in the school seeing at the phys ed those kids running around going, hey, you need to play football, and throwing the football with them here and there. And they, okay, hey, someone's showing an interest to me. I'm going to go play football now. And the soccer coach going, that's one of my better guys you took. I'm sorry. So that's still it's just the recruiting and staying on top of those players.
So when you look back, I mean, obviously, again, going back to, when you played in high school and even college, and I always say now, like the old school coaches, again, I would consider my dad one of the old school guys that, was the first one to say, get in that I formation and, run the ball between the tackles. And you look at the game, even in college, it's all the spread. You were known for that over at Notre Dame and in college. Has that transition now? I mean, is that all we're seeing throughout high school? Is there any more old school teams out there?
I think you still see some old school teams. There's a couple of programs like Indian River runs the veer and the wing, and they do it great with the triple option. Then he teaches that, and their Pop Warner has it, and so something that's kind of ingrained in those kids. You kind of see it at Dodgeville, that old school mentality. That's what those parents have grown up with, and they teach their kids that, and they just keep that rolling. But the thing is, now you're seeing athletes. Now you got a lot more talent out there, and also I feel like sometimes there's not enough big guys out there. Now, if we had 6'4", 250 guys and a running back that was 6'6" or 6'4", big kid, and we would pound the ball all the whole time. I always had the philosophy of, our offensive scheme will match what we have as an offense, as personnel. I'm not a fan of, this is what I do, this is it, we got to fit to this.
Right.
And it's changed over the years. It's nice that we have a quarterback with Evan that can put the ball anywhere, spread the ball around. But my first couple of years, we had young quarterbacks, so we had to do some different things. And so we just keep each year figure out who our players are, who do we need to try to get the ball to, what's our best and strength, or what's our strengths, what's our weaknesses, and kind of develop that way.
Yeah, I saw Evan at the Pop Warner game on Sunday, and I joked with him. I said, Evan, you get to throw the ball 20, 30 times a game. I don't think I threw that in 4 years, my entire career. at RFA, and he just kind of chuckled. But so obviously, you guys had the tribute up on the scoreboard the last couple times. You had the one for Coach Mize, which I thought was awesome, and then you had the one for Coach Hoke. And one of the things I always say, I think it's always unfair no matter what. And I'm not saying just you, because even in basketball, with Nick, it's always, Coach Evans was a legend here. And when people think about Rome basketball, it's Coach Evans. When they think football, it's Don Bruce and Coach Mize and Tom Hoke. You're always going to be compared to that no matter what. I mean, you can go undefeated, win a state championship, but you're always going to be compared to what some of those old school teams did. Does that ever bother you?
No, I mean, I lived it. I lived in Clyde, and my father was always compared to my father. Oh, your grandfather did this. They ran the I formation, the waggle pass, all this. We need to do that. And my father was always living in that. And I just saw it. And even my father says, you can only do as best as you can do. If you can go home and rest nicely at night, that you gave everything you can, that's all we ask. That's what a real coach does. Because if I start to go chasing that stuff, then I'm not going to focus on what matters the most is those kids, and the love of the game and teaching the love of the game and developing those kids.
So how about from Notre Dame until now, and even we'll say Notre Dame, and then we're at Utica College and Hamilton till now, how have you changed as a coach from then until where you're at now?
It's the learning. It's always learning. I mean, I have behind me on this couch right here, I have a notebook that I will stop and watch a play over and over. And my wife hates it, watching football with me. It's not so much calling out plays, but it's rewinding and going, wow, what did they do there? And just keep rewinding. My wife's like, can we please watch it? Come on. And I'll have our DVR. I'll have a couple of games recorded. And it's nice now with technology to just keep learning. And it's always fun just talking football. I've seen it over. I guess you could say, I'm more not so much humble. When I was a young kid, any young kid, you'd think my way, I have the best techniques, I have this, but now it's like, all right, there's different ways to talk about it. There's different ways to teach it. How can I learn those ways? How can I learn different things that I can be able to have our kids maybe understand something better? And with the kids changing these days of, their attention span not being almost always there, how can I be able to reach them a little bit better? What are some things that we can do differently on the practice field, not just be stagnant, the same stuff over and over? What are some different challenges and stuff? So it's just more learning. I mean, I'm still a student of the game, and I love everything about it. And I'm such a junkie that I go to clinics, go to watch them on computers, which is nice now with the COVID that all the clinics are, archived, so I can go back and watch different things, different guys talk, and just hearing what people just say and just stealing a little bit here and here to use for my program. And then just love like this going on and just talking about football and about everything.
Now, how about from year one? So when you look back now on your time here in Rome, would you have done anything different from year one until now?
I would say I wish I was a little bit more disciplined year one. I think coming in, I was a little bit, not so much timid, but I wanted to keep the numbers high for football. And I was always worried if I got too strict to this, that kids will say, nope, not for me, and just leave. And then our numbers would be low, and now, which is nice, is learning through the years that, having a little bit more discipline, worrying about the little stuff, making that stuff matter is helping us out a lot. And that's one thing I always kick myself for.
Well, we got to talk about this year. So if my math and my numbers are correct here, the last time RFA made the sectionals was back in 2015. And I believe that's the year they went 5-4. I could be wrong, but I think it was 2015. The last league title was 2006. And then the last time the team started 5-0, I believe was the 96-97 team or year, which was also the year we finished 11-1 and got beat to Roosevelt High School in the state championship.
Yeah.
So I think my numbers are right. But talk to us about this year, because here I'm going to give you the naysayers. So the bandwagon fans, Jake, are the ones that are going to say they're only winning because they haven't played anybody. The real fans are going to say no matter who you put on the schedule, you still got to go play the games and you still got to go win those games. So for those RFA fans that are out there, we all know they are, what would you say to those people?
Well, I think, what we tell our guys, just focus on one day at a time. We want to win that day. And our schedule this year, yes, we have a little bit different schedule than the years past. We needed to change it up. We can't just keep doing the same thing over and over. Definition of insanity, expecting different results. So we chose to do a little bit different route. So we asked for, I guess you could call it a relief a little bit, but it's really not too much relief. It's just we're playing more teams that are like our style with the number, the size of
Mm-hmm.
kids, the speed and everything. Where, double A, of course you look at double A and it seems like some of them are down, but every year you have the CNS that are rolling in
Mm-hmm.
70 deep. CBA, they might not have 70, but they have the biggest boys in Syracuse that they recruit. Liverpool is usually a good sized school, Beeville. And so it's just so much of competing against the numbers of it. It's just if you could picture a 40 man roster playing against those 60-man rosters,
Mm-hmm.
there's 20 extra guys.
Right.
And so if you play them week in, week out, week in, week out, your team usually gets beat up. And those teams have enough to play just offense and defense. So we asked for that type of relief. Same with Henniger. And there's some other programs that did the same in A that just want a more, I guess you say, competitive game,
Mm-hmm.
that they want to look for. And so luckily the section came through with the football committee and helped us out and made it a little bit more balanced a little bit, which is, you dealt with that Sequoia. When you get beat in, beat out each week, a lot of
Absolutely.
players, it's hard to teach off that, where even if you're in a close game and you lose by a touchdown or two, okay, hey, if we did this little thing here and there, guess what? We probably win that game. Where if you're getting blown out 52-0, it's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
that team's very good.
Right.
So this year, we just wanted to focus one day at a time, one game at a time, and it's like just don't worry about who's on our schedule. We still have very teams that are very talented. FM's very talented. Auburn, who we just faced, are big boys up front, very talented year in year out. Obviously you got Whitesboro. West Jenny won sectional title last year, so
Yeah.
it's not a cupcake. It's not like us playing D schools and we're just going through destroying everyone. It's just now we're playing teams that are like us with the size. And those teams that you see each year, I mean, there's Whitesboro. I bet Whitesboro could probably beat a lot of double A schools.
Oh, no doubt.
I know this year Coach Smith wanted to play that first game, CBA, CNS, or be like, guys, we want to play you. And they're like, we were to go out of section because they have a very talented kid on that side. And it's just it gets a little frustrating because people say, oh, you're not playing anyone, but yet you're still playing football and you're still playing those teams that have tradition there, and you still got to show up. You just can't go out and we're just
Right.
we're RFA, we're walking through people. That Henniger game we didn't bring our A game, we didn't bring our B game, but we battled through, and winning for us this year, you definitely see creates that confidence where
Mm-hmm.
those guys walk around a little bit different. Our players that, okay, something might not go right, but they've had success is, okay, hey, I just have to correct that or I'll get them next play. Where in the years past of getting kind of beat up, it's almost here we go again. They just have that mentality of just getting beat down over and over. Where this year it's like, okay, new schedule. We haven't seen any of these teams, so they're excited about that. And with us having success earlier on, it's only keeping building, not just confidence, but just that muscle memory. Okay, I've had success. If I do this, hey, it's going to work, and they're going to believe it a little bit more.
Well, I think, like we talked about on the radio before the season started, but even just playing different teams, that mentality is going to change. But I also think it's nice that these kids get a chance to be in, competitive games, close games. They're not, like you said, you go with 30 kids and you go play CNS to bring 60.
Yeah.
It's tough to do. But that whole double A schedule is a gauntlet. Liverpool, CNS, Baldwinsville. I mean, those are CBA. I mean, that's a gauntlet. I still say no matter who you have on your schedule, you got to go play it. And like you said, I think Auburn was good. I think FM was good. ESM, your opening game,
That's a,
you know, was
that's one, yeah.
was a tight game. West Jenny coming off a fantastic season last year where they won a sectional title. So the schedule is not easy, but people will say, "Well, they're not playing but you are playing some of the big boys. It's just a different year."
Yeah, and the thing is I always say it's hard. People don't understand in New York State, and especially in Section 3, I have no say in my schedule.
Right.
You know who makes my schedule? If I stay in AA, CNS coach. He's our representative.
Yeah.
He makes my schedule. He doesn't know what my team is, and the funny part is, it's like with that 1 year we beat them. So what's after that? The next 3 years or 2 years that we face them at the end of the year, and we had to play Liverpool and CBA right before him. So it's like, okay, well, and he always jokes, "I'll never play you early again." He kind of jokes about that. But I mean, on any given night, any team could beat anyone. But it's just nice to have a new schedule. And I always said, and I fight and try to get on those boards for football committees. A and AA, there's not too much different between those schools. Just like a B can play a C school.
Right.
Like I always found it crazy how Oneida, like last year, Oneida and VVS couldn't really play each other because one's a B and one's a C. Well, they're only 10 kids apart according to the beds number.
Right.
And they have very similar teams, and that's a rival. And even us not playing Proctor this year, a huge rival. It kind of drives you nuts as I know we can't have everything as a football coach of we need this team and this team, but there's certain things I think we could do as a football committee of how other states do it, and not just so much of, okay, we have to go by what this is. I mean, take New Jersey, great football thing. They have 3 state champions. They don't just have one, they have 3.
Yeah.
So they play 10 games. They have a northern, middle, and so they play more football. Same with all the other thing where New York State, we're still, okay, we got 8 games, maybe 9, and there's one state final. That's it. Where I wish we could play somewhat towards Thanksgiving and have a couple extra more games and a different way of going instead of just, nope, this is how it's set and this is how it is.
Believe in this year, there's no New Hartford Whitesboro.
Yeah.
That's been around for 20-something years, and there's that they're not playing this year. So I agree with it big time. It almost reminds me, I think it was my first year at Sequoia when I got the head job there. We went 6-3, and it was the first winning season in a long time. And I had probably 20 seniors, and at a Class D school, if you have 20 seniors, so the following year we lost 20 seniors. They put us in the NFF or the NSF, NFF. I think it was the NFF. And everybody's like, well, you should go in there and win games. But I'm like, so the NFF is for teams that either lost a lot of seniors that are basically in a rebuilding year, or programs that have struggled for a long time, that have gotten the snot kicked out of them for year in and year out, to give those kids an opportunity to have some success, be in some close games. So then the following year, you're hoping you can get some numbers. Yeah. That's kind of what this reminds me of.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like that because before the season started, it football was in a possible hurting because I think it was us, Henniger, and some A schools that were like, all right, if you're not going to help us, we're going to kind of go do our own thing. We know that, competing with you guys is going to be very hard. And I think we almost had 10 teams almost saying, okay, we'll go there. And they were sitting there going, wait a minute, we only got like 4 and 5. How are we going to have a season like this? We don't want to play, the lower schools didn't want to play all Beeville, Liverpool. Yeah. Like, they're like, wait a minute. I'm like, well, we need your help. Football is not in a great state in Section 3 if we keep the same way going. And you're starting to see schools across New York State just, that unfortunately the numbers are going down. Mm-hmm. And there shouldn't be any reason why a coach shouldn't have a say. And everyone looks at the schedule. They know that they go through and they go, okay, good chance. Ooh, this one, we gotta come out and play our A game. I'm not saying they're gonna say, no, we're gonna lose, but we have to come out and play. If we don't play our A game, it's gonna be a long day.
We used to always say when when we look at this, I mean, we do what you say. I mean, as coaches, we say we tell the kids, I mean, we're not scared to play anybody. We'll go compete and see what happens. But, you'd go through and say, okay, these 4, I think we can win. There's always 2 on the schedule. For us, it was always West Canada and Dodgeville. if we can try to split one of the two,
Yeah.
and then you look at the other and say, okay, well, we got a really good chance. But as coaches, we go into games, right, saying we can beat anybody, guys. You got to go out there, you got to play. But some of those kids, I mean, we know they look at the schedule, they look at the social media, they see everything, they hear everything. So for your kids this year, and even yourself, to be off to a 5-0 start, those kids have got to be flying high, because I was looking at your games, and obviously you and I talked, but ESM's a close game, where maybe in years past the ball bounces a different way, you lose that game, right? The other game against Auburn,
Yep.
they take the lead. It's like, up, here we go again. We know what's going to happen. But you guys go down last minute, and you guys score. So it's almost like it's one of those years where the ball finally gets to bounce your way.
Yeah, it does, but it's also too, it helps. Just like you said, we have a huge senior class. I think we got 24 of them
Oh,
that
wow.
they've been playing since 10th graders. So they've all been playing together this whole time. But that first year right after COVID, it's like they were babies out there. 10th graders going against 12th graders. That's a huge difference, especially
Mm-hmm.
in A and AA football. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have that luxury of, a smaller school. It might not be so much of a difference, but the big boys it is. And then they got better last year, but last year you had some loaded teams in double A. You had CBA was loaded, CNS, and we had some injuries that hurt us. So we went into last year's CNS game down both quarterbacks. So we had to put in a whole new offense to go against
Yeah.
CNS with our running backs and trying to do something different, because we didn't have anyone to put at quarterback, because we had one had a concussion, one hurt his shoulder. So that game's almost not so much a toss up, but it's almost like, kind of you put that to a side. All right, that wasn't our normal team. And then you got this year, it's just they work so hard. You can tell from their 10th grade year to their senior year that they put the work in. Even such a kid like Evan, like I've always said, yes, he got stronger, he got quicker, he can make every throw, but what came with it is having this up here, that
Mm-hmm.
mental part, that seeing the pre-snap, reading coverage, anticipating throws, which you don't get as a 10th grader.
Right.
So, and even hit our line this year, blocking for an extra second longer, where last year, if we had that second, you know what, we probably complete more passes than that they were still young, and but now they're a little bit stronger. And then what's nice is we do have some younger kids that are tied in there, so it's some juniors. So it's not just the cover's going to be bare next year.
So now, speaking of next year, so what's that look like now? So you guys will graduate over 20 seniors. Do you guys stay where you're at, or will you get put back in?
I don't know. I know there was talk it might be a 2-year that they want to do a 2-year run of this, but the thing is, I think you have other teams that are, that will see how things are run, and it's like, wait a minute, we don't want to keep doing this. It's like, take for FM. They were been A for the last 3
Yeah.
years, and then they got moved up. Maybe they go, wait a minute, we don't want to keep. We're barely a double A school.
Mm-hmm.
We want to do kind of what they do, and that's what I always say. Is each year, if we can, as football committees, sit down together, so we're all on the same page, and even if it's, all right, you got to play CBA once or CNS. Now you got to play these schools, and you get to play these. And it's a good mixture. I think everyone could come out being happy with that. Even when I played at, I remember when I played at Clyde, we played B schools, we played C schools, we played D, and the fun part was it was a number scale. So
Mm-hmm.
you won a B school, you got more points. There's a point system, but they always had a point system for the second column of, did you beat a team that was winning? So you got an extra point or two at the end. So yeah, we might have been in second place, but it's like, all right, wait till the end. We beat 4 teams that had winning records. So we got an extra 5 points that would bump us up to first or bump us
Right.
down. So it was always, you wanted those teams to do well, to have a winning record, so you could get more points. And that was always exciting, because it wasn't just, oh, you only play a C school or you only play a D school and that's it. We got to play local. So the fans like that more, that the teams that are around you, and you don't have to go so far away. And I always figured, like, Section 3, we should have something close to that, let's sit down. There shouldn't be why Whitesboro and New Hartford shouldn't play each other most of the time. It shouldn't be why us and Proctor, and once in a while throw us and New Hartford together. That this year would be a great game. We went out there and scrimmaged them a couple of times, They are a very solid team out there. Coach Kramer is doing a great job. And same with the Whitesboro. And it's not so much, okay, we got to go play CBA, CNS, Beeville, just because they're tagged AA and so are we.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of Whitesboro, you get a big game on a short week here. You'll play Thursday night. Obviously, we know Whitesboro comes in with the quarterback there who's the real deal, just signed to go to Dartmouth, play quarterback there. So it'll be that was a rivalry game for us. So it was always Proctor, it was Henniger, and it was always Whitesboro for us. So you get another kind of a rivalry game, right, coming in Thursday night. Kind of an odd night, not your typical Friday night, but should be a great game at the stadium. Weather's supposed to be beautiful.
Yeah, the reason we have to play Thursday night is because fortunately there's not enough officials, and what Section 3 decided to do was, one league, your night is week 2. This league, your night is week 3. And so unfortunately ours fell on our senior night, our last home game. And I even tried to fight it a little bit, and they're like, well, that's the way we agreed upon, so I completely understand. But with the short week, it's going to be tough. They are a solid team. That's a solid program out there. Coach Smith's got a good thing running, and he's always made the joke, even in the summer, if we don't win it all for an A, I might be fired. He goes, I have that type of team that's just that magical season that you have everyone returning. I think they had a small senior class last year, so a lot of guys have playing experience. And that quarterback back there he's a difference maker. He is a huge kid. I kind of joke with our team a little bit. I said, he's like a Tim Tebow alike.
Big boy.
He can run and he can throw. And I want to say he's almost 230, 240 that can outrun people. And that's bigger than almost all my kids I have. So it's going to be a nice physical game. Whitesboro's always physical. And this kid actually brings another element that Whitesboro hasn't had in a while, of that passing game. He throws the ball very well, and he's got some receivers back there. So we're going to have to cover the whole field.
Yeah, I saw Coach Shane in the preseason. I saw him up at Knuckleheads. Matter of fact, I think it was after my Aiden went to Coach Kramer, the clinic they had up at the Westmoreland place there. And I was talking to Coach Shane, and he goes, if they don't win it this year, but you know what I always say? I always say, like, sometimes the years where you think you're going to be really good, whether, it's an injury or something crazy happens. To me, I always think it's the year where you don't think you're going to be very good. You get on a hot streak, you're playing really well. Maybe you sneak up on some teams. So I think that can go a couple different ways.
Yeah, I mean, that team goes around that quarterback. Yeah, so no one ever wishes injury, but if he stays healthy, they can make a huge run. But a simple twist in the ankle here and there in a game could be the whole difference of a game here and there.
So, Jake, the last thing I wanted to ask you, so you have you guys, the JV program, I think Modified's only played, one game?
Two. They played 2.
Okay. How'd they do the second one?
They didn't win. They played Whitesboro. I think they lost. I want to say the first half it was 3-1 or something, and then second half, I think they won the second half, but it was only like 2-1. So overall, they finished well, but didn't finish the game on the winning side.
So you'd have the JV varsity, and then the 2 Pop Warner teams are all undefeated in Rome. And everybody in Rome would say years ago, that's how it always was. How nice is it right now to have all the programs having some success?
It's wonderful. I mean, that's where I think the more teams that win, that kids are figuring out, okay, this is how winning is. It's definitely hard to teach winning when you're not winning. But when you're winning and you can say, all right, this is how we're winning, this is why we're winning, and they're seeing success because of it, it's a huge part. So if it starts from the lower levels and keeps going up, that bridge has already been built, which is nice. And also too, just like you're down there and we talk, it's the fundamentals. If they learn that fundamentals down there and they get that ingrained, it's one less thing that we have to worry about up here, and we can teach more scheme and try to scheme against guys instead of just working fundamentals over and over and over and trying to reteach the basics. So it's awesome. And I guess the running joke is who's gonna falter first. And it's always, I tell our guys, let's not us be first. Let someone else be first. But it's even our varsity and JV. They kind of have that competition a little bit. It was like, we'll do it, then you guys got to do it. So it's, I guess you could say it's more of that competitive edge. Like, I don't want to be us to lose first. I want you to, not, we don't wish upon you, but we're not going to lose first.
Yeah, that's how our 10U and 12U is. They're like, who's going to lose first between the two? And, when I was playing in high school, it was always the field hockey team was really good. And we were. So it was always what team's going to lose first. But it was friendly competition, but it pushed everybody, because you didn't want to be that team. But, I think it's nice to see because, you were at one of the games and you had the clinic over the summer. You had the Pop Warner night at the stadium, which I thought was awesome, even though Coach Evans gave us a hard time. He said, there's so many kids running around the stadium, and he was going up to kids saying, who's RFA playing? What's the score? But it's so cool to see all the kids and all the hype, kids wearing the jerseys and just parents talking about it. And, hey, did you see the RFA game the other night? So it's so nice to hear that buzz again. It's just great at all levels.
And that's what's nice is you get that buzz, the great atmosphere. More kids will tend to go to that. Mm-hmm. They want to see, why is this so, what's going on here? Let me try to be a part of it and see what's going on. And they end up like, wow, this is fun. I enjoy being on this. And they might not even have playing experience.
Right.
When I would go into high school, I go during lunch periods at the end of the year to try to recruit kids to come out to football and I always tell them, just try it. Just come out and try it. If you don't like it, I'll shake your hand and you can go back playing basketball, hockey, soccer, whatever. Give it a try. You never know. And then you even got some of them. It's like our tall kid, Dom, he came out his senior year and he's like, I wish I came out earlier. And it's like, so do we, so do we. So I always try to get the young kids, just try it, keep with it. And you might have a bad year or two. It's okay. The ball might roll differently. You might have injuries here and there that hurt a team, but keep continuing. And my preach to all those guys too is play multiple sports. Don't focus on you. I don't want to hear a kid that says, I'm only a football guy. No, go play basketball, go do track, go swim, go play baseball, go do other stuff. Be an overall athlete because that's going to help you in life. And like I always tell them, when I did college recruiting and I know those other schools, the big boys, the first question other than grades is number one. Number two, what other sports did he play?
Yeah.
He was an all-state basketball player, an all-state lacrosse player. They know what type of athlete you're getting now. Instead of, he only plays one sport, that's it. They want to see you be successful across all different sports.
Well, Coach, listen, I appreciate you jumping on at me tonight. I know it's different than the college football podcast. We'll get the crew back together here sometime over the next couple of weeks to talk some college ball. But it's been fun chatting with. Always great to catch up, talk some RFA football, and thanks for being good to me. You've been a friend of mine, which I appreciate. And I know sometimes coming on the radio, even over the past couple of years, you've always been gracious through a win. And even when things don't go well, you always jump on. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I appreciate the support you give and, putting this out there and letting people get to know me a little bit better and getting to know our program and keep telling them, you're always been positive through the bad and through the good, that you've always been the level-headed that, hey, things are coming around and keep going. And so I do appreciate that a lot. And, and anytime, I always enjoy coming on here talking football no matter what.
No, it's always good.
Glad we don't have C-Bus on here to grill me about Clemson.
He'll be on pretty soon, though.
I missed the call. I wish we had the radio so I could call and let Medicis know about Syracuse.
I know. Well, this Sunday, I'll be back on Sunday, so we'll get you back on. Now we'll see what's going on next week to see if we can do the college show.
Perfect.
I had all my notes. I had to delete them all because it was 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how much college football has changed. And that's the fun thing about college football compared to pros and everything. It's, the week in and week out, that one team blows out a team and another team's like, oh man, they were close to that week. And this year it's just, it's going to be hard to predict who's going to be in that Final Four.
Well, we might have a year where you don't have one SEC team in the playoff, but we'll see what happens. Maybe a couple Big Tens. We'll see.
I'm surprised you didn't say Prime.
Hey, he's already lived up to the hype.
Yeah.
He'll be all right. So, all right, Coach. Well, listen, thank you. Good luck Thursday night. I know I'll talk to you, but we appreciate it tonight.
And thank you for everyone who's watching, and thank you for coming out and supporting our boys. They've been working hard, and they definitely deserve it. And not enough credit goes to them. And it's they do everything out there. I get the nice part of enjoying watching them, teaching them, and seeing them develop. So it's one of the best things as a coach that you can see out there.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully we'll get a good crowd Thursday night.
Awesome. I hope so.
All right, Coach. Good luck.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. So that was awesome. I want to thank Coach for coming on and taking the time tonight. He always does. He's been great to me from day one he got the job and until now. And I appreciate the the friendship. He listens to me babble sometimes about football, but it's great. And we need to support these guys. Get to the stadium on Thursday night. I know it's an off night. It's not a Friday night game, but it's a rivalry game. It's a local game. So get down to the stadium Thursday night. Support the kids. They're off to a great start, 5-0, and hopefully they can finish strong. I'll let everybody know when the college football podcast, the No Huddle podcast, will be going back. It'll be sometime over the next week or two. We'll get the crew together. I know everybody's itching to talk some college football. I know I am. So I want to appreciate Coach for coming on. Thank him for coming on. Thank everybody tonight for tuning in to listen to us talk some Rome Free Academy football. So as I say here on the Rock Pile is where dreams become reality. Have a good evening, everybody.